Alright, this is not one of my typical lessons. This is actually a demonstration of an exercise out of this book. It's Jody Fisher's 30-Day Guitar Workout. I used this book several years ago, and there's one exercise per day, and there's a technique and then a chord exercise. It's really good for your technique. It's kind of hard to get all the way through. It's a little time consuming, but totally worth it if you've got the time. Anyway, on page 34 we have an exercise where he stretches your hand a little bit. And it's one of my favorite exercises, but it's a little bit challenging. And what we're going to do, we're not even picking anything. All you're doing is you're putting your first finger on the 9th fret as hard as you can. Count to 4 or using the metronome. And then put your second finger on as hard as you can. You're keeping the pressure on both fingers. Count to 4, then you put your third finger on the next fret. So you're keeping all the fingers on, pressure as much as you can. When you go to put your fourth finger down, you're also going to reach your first finger down a fret. So you're stretching across this part of the hand. Alright, and then the next, move your middle finger down a fret. Alright, keeping the pressure on all of these. And then the third finger, and then you do the fourth and the first fingers, and so on. As you creep down the fretboard, what happens is that you get this really wide stretch. The first day or two I did this exercise. You don't want to do this too much because you can kind of mess your hand up if you're overdoing it. But you do it once or twice a day. Give yourself some rest. But all of the muscle here really stretches out and kind of breaks up. Your hand doesn't do this kind of stretch very often. You know, you do this all day. You don't do that. If I take my hands and I line up my pinkies, all right, you can kind of see. There's my little finger here. You can see the difference in the stretch between this hand, which is my picking hand, and then this hand, which is my fretting hand. I just have a really wide reach, and part of this comes just from this exercise. That's why I like recommending this book of technique exercises. A lot of good stuff like this. Alright, so I'm going to go through it one time. You just do it on the 6th string. The slower you make the tempo, the more stretch you get. I'm just going to try and run through this fairly quickly. So I've got this set at about 70. Alright. 2, 3, and the second finger, 3, and then third finger, then 4 and 1. Now remember to keep all the finger pressure down. You're only moving one finger at a time. Now what this is going to do is going to also give you the added benefit of making your fingers move a little bit independently of each other, especially the third finger, which doesn't really have to do much on its own on a regular basis. As you start getting farther down the neck and the frets get farther and farther apart, you're going to start feeling it really stretch. By the time you get to the end, your hand's probably going to not feel so good. Remember to keep the downward pressure on it too. It's almost like a little isometric exercise. And you kind of see when I'm reaching with the first finger that I'm kind of pointing down the fretboard. Okay, here's the last. You can kind of see where all that reaches right there. 2, 3, 4, and then you're done. My hand's fairly toasted, but it's a good stretch. It really, what happens is I think the muscle over the years tends to harden if you don't flex it or stretch it in certain directions. So a lot of us, you know, since we type all the time or grab things like this, we don't have that lateral stretch, right? And that's what this does, is it kind of breaks it up and gives you that flexibility, and then you can play really wide stretches. So if I was to oh, there's a pick. I'm organized today. Right there I'm playing 5 and 7 and then 10 on the 4th string. If I wanted to, I could play 5, 8, and 11. Right, not the most useful or musical thing. Right there, that's 12, 15, and 19. I can even, if I wanted to, stretch up to 21. Alright, that was always one of the things I always had problems with, was making wide reaches. I did that exercise. I also made the realization that if you play like this all the time, it's real hard to reach with the pinky. If you rotate the hand around, you bend with the hand kind of in that angle, but if I need to stretch, I kind of bring it, and then I've got all of this here that I can reach with, even if I'm playing like really wide chords. So anyway, one last plug, since this is not my material, it's Jody Fisher's. Here's his 30-day guitar workbook. I'll have a link on the YouTube page, and this will actually be just in my forum, MWGLforums.com.